Tens of millions of Americans are about to face one of the toughest winters ever recorded in the history of the United States. As companies continue to announce massive layoffs, adding to the already staggering unemployment rate, households are facing food and housing insecurity. The virus-induced economic downturn continues to cause financial devastation on the working poor, and left without a source of income or federal assistance, more and more people are now reliant on food banks to have enough to eat. Reports from Texas, Colorado, Rhode Island, and many other states are describing growing food bank lines all across the nation. Moreover, permanent job losses continue to surge, signaling a double-dip recession that seems to be fast approaching. In today's video, we're going to examine how the tragic hunger crisis that's been affecting millions of U.S. families is a clear indication that the economic meltdown is far from over. So stay with us, and don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, share it with friends, and please subscribe to our channel to keep updated with future videos. The more we scroll the latest news feeds, the more we see reports popping detailing how the growing food insecurity that's been spreading all over America is leaving food banks overwhelmed by such a sudden spike in demand. Currently, millions of U.S. citizens are going hungry and relying on volunteers and non-profit organizations to stay fed during the forthcoming holiday season and the approaching winter. A clear picture of the economic suffering experienced by American workers can be seen in kilometric food bank lines, where some wait for up to 8 hours to be provided with basic food supplies they can no longer afford. Last weekend in Texas, one of the largest ever food giveaways handed out more than 600,000 pounds of food to 25,000 hungry people. That's according to the North Texas Food Bank. In Arlington, U.S. soldiers attended a massive food drive, assisting with the distribution of supplies to over 6,000 families in need. The gigantic food distribution event in Arlington was set up by Tarrant Area Food Bank outside the AT&T Stadium, and in an interview with CBS, CEO Julie Butner disclosed that was the largest food drive in their history. She said, "It's heartbreaking on the one side to see so many families that need our help that have never needed our help before. On the other side of the coin, it's how the community has come together to do what's needed for those who need us to help them," Butner said. After the expiration of their unemployment benefits and disqualified for the assistance of federal programs such as SNAP, also known as food stamps, many of these people were very touched by the much-needed help provided by the selfless efforts of volunteers at these pantries, affirming that without it, they wouldn't have anything to eat. "It's been very rough for me. I've been out of a job for about 8 months now," local resident John Betsy said. Agnes Pinero, another unemployed worker, stated, "Thank you. This is a blessing. If we had a lot more of this going on, it'll be a lot easier." In the southern area of the state, the positivity rate has reached 11%. The region accounts for nearly 1/3 of all casualties and hospitalizations nationwide, as reported in a CNBC analysis of Johns Hopkins data. Last Tuesday, Texas recorded an all-time high with nearly 14,000 new confirmed cases. Consequently, business reopening plans were postponed. Owners have already started another round of layoffs and furloughs, which in turn will impact Texans' food insecurity levels. The CEO of the San Antonio Food Bank, Eric Cooper, told CNBC that his food pantry now feeds double the amount of people it used to compared to before the sanitary outbreak has gripped America. He explained that before the crisis had begun, they used to feed 60,000 people a week, and now they're serving about 120,000 people per week. Most of those are new to the food bank, Cooper said, and have never had to ask for help before. His food bank provides 8 semi-truck loads of food a day to people in need, but the extraordinary increase in demand is making it harder to manage the deliverance of enough supplies for everyone. Cooper exposed, "Today we had a distribution that fed 2,000, and we have these distributions all the time." He continued, "Food banks around the country have seen this unprecedented demand, and we're just working as hard as we can to balance the private donations we get with the public assistance to try to make sure people are fed." Cooper also highlighted that distance learning has been adding extra stress on parents when it comes to feeding their kids. A child would miss 10 meals in a week. If a mom has 2 to 3 kids in school, she's now feeling the impact of the cost of that food at home. And without employment, kids are going hungry, he expounded. "We're hearing from schools that kids are struggling with their education because they don't have access to good nutrition." A recent study found that U.S. child hunger has largely exceeded the national average. For every adult facing food insecurity, 4 children were going hungry. The New England Journal of Medicine published an article in which physicians argued how a healthy diet, rich in fruits and vegetables and low in sugar and calorie-dense processed foods, is essential to health, they said. The ability to eat a healthy diet is largely determined by one's access to affordable, healthy foods, a consequence of the conditions and environment in which one lives. Considering that each day that goes by, more families keep falling into poverty, their access to nourishing diets is unfortunately being compromised. Food insecurity often disproportionately impacts people of color, seniors, and those living in low-income communities. Though the factors underlying racial and ethnic disparities in the United States are multifaceted and complex, long-standing disparities in nutrition and obesity play a crucial role in the health inequities unfolding during the health crisis, the article also explained. As a result, such malnourished, food-insecure people are becoming increasingly more vulnerable to the current virus, which is particularly worrying since hospitals are already crowded. The U.S. Department of Agriculture report found that food insecurity was associated with 10 of the costliest and most lethal diseases in the country. Right now, according to a Feeding America survey, over 54 million Americans don't have access to sufficient food. That's almost 13 million more than in 2019, more than the Texas and Florida's populations combined. That's why scenes just as seen in Texas are being repeated across the country, particularly because 10 million people are still out of work, and the situation only seems to get worse as we move toward the end of the year. In Denver, the Jewish Family Services Weinberg Food Pantry has been handing free groceries to locals. The pantry operates 3 days a week. Shelley Hines, Director of Community Resources and Stability for the agency, revealed that since the health crisis started, business quadrupled from 40 households a day to 160, saying, "A lot of people that haven't ever been in this situation before have worked their whole lives and were furloughed." She continued to say, "We're seeing a lot of immigrant families, a lot of vulnerable working families with children. About 40% of the total numbers that we're seeing are children, and so lots and lots of families in our community are really food insecure at this point." A resident that stopped by for groceries told CPR News that these food handouts are the difference between having something to eat and going completely hungry. She said, "It means that my kids have dinner and lunch. You know, we're homeschooling now. It's a real hardship for us. This virus outbreak has really done a number on our family." She's said to be a business insurance seller, and ever since her hours have been cut due to health-related restrictions, she doesn't earn enough to provide for her family. The same situation is experienced by Wisdom Woman, a business owner. He owns a limousine company that was dried up as a consequence of the current recession. He said, "There's no income coming in because of the health crisis. I'm not making anything." This distressing situation undergone by so many individuals has emphasized how the middle class isn't immune to the struggles brought by the economic downturn. Rachel Waywell, a restaurant server recently laid off, stated in an interview with CPR, "It's just really hard. It's not a position I ever thought I'd be in." On the same note, Kathy Underhill, who oversees food production for the Colorado Department of Human Services, informed that, overall, about 18% of food pantry clients have never visited a pantry before the outbreak, and that's a staggering number compared to normal. In a survey that examined those grants, it was found that approximately half of food pantry clients statewide affirmed they'd had a casualty or serious illness in the family. Roughly a third said they'd lost their jobs. 21% reported they'd lost housing. People are really being devastated by this, Underhill said. In western Colorado, the heads of the Community Food Bank of Grand Junction, Alicia Wenger, said that demand has doubled from pre-outbreak levels, forcing what was a relatively small operation to expand really fast. During the summer, Wenger had to rent a refrigerated truck for 4 months to keep produce fresh and to make sure it would arrive at the hands of those who needed it the most. She said, "I think it's going to be a really challenging winter, probably the most challenging winter we've ever had related to hunger in Colorado." Furthermore, in Rhode Island, the hunger calamity has hit a whole new level. The local community food banks released the 2020 status report on hunger in Rhode Island, which informed that 1 out of 4 people in the state were unable to provide enough food for themselves and their families. Last year, the number reporting food insecurity was 9.1. Now at 25%, the report outlines that such a disturbing food insecurity rate hasn't been seen in the state since the Great Depression. People in lower-wage jobs are usually among the first to be let go of their posts. Those left jobless and hungry are more susceptible to being infected by the virus, the report shows. According to Andrew Schiff, the food bank's chief executive officer, the more the demand climbs, the fewer are the donations. Businesses that used to help now have to stay closed and don't have any money coming in. Therefore, they can't make donations either. The largest new population, people who've been laid off because of the economic fallout or the health outbreak, are still learning that the jobs are never gonna come back. Those families are in real trouble. They're struggling to pay rent, pay the heating bill, and they run out of food, said Schiff, pointing out that such critical circumstances are poised to get worse, considering evidence that there might be a certain amount of donor fatigue. He maintained, "I don't think we're going to get through this unless Congress approves another stimulus relief bill. We're coming up against that moment when bankruptcy, eviction, and hunger break out all over, jeopardizing what will already be a slow economic recovery." Schiff's statement came at the same time J.P. Morgan predicted a negative first-quarter growth for the 2021 U.S. GDP. JPM's chief economist, Michael Froley, wrote that while the economy witnessed a rebound in July, at that time the reopening of the economy provided a powerful tailwind to growth. The economy no longer has that tailwind. Instead, it now faces the headwind of increasing restrictions on activity. And given that the holiday season threatens a further increase in cases, this winter will be grim, and their forecasts suggest the economy will contract again. In other words, the double-dip recession economists and market strategists have been warning about is on the verge of happening. One of the disrupting effects of the economic deterioration experienced so far can be illustrated by this photograph, which mirrors a scene this country has seen before. We wonder how much worse things could get, since the collapse has just started. Thank you for watching today's video. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, share it with friends, and please subscribe to our channel to keep updated with future videos.